Alright, so as you're watching this, the Make Your Move beta has officially released. So, the first thing you'll do when you join the game is take a look around and be like, what the hell is going on? How do I play this? So in case you haven't seen the devlogs, here's a quick tutorial on how the game works. So firstly, you'll see that your camera is like in the middle of a map and there's some UI on your screen. So in the bottom left, we have a camera control system here. There's zoom in and out. This is plus and minus. This is how you can change how zoomed in and out you are on the board. So you can focus in on one area. You can zoom out to see the whole map, maybe take a screenshot. That's what that's for. And as you've seen me using, you have forwards, right, down and left buttons here. I'd say it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, this button in the middle is a little bit less clear. It stands for reset and it will spawn you back in the middle of the map where your camera started in. This can be helpful if for some reason you like hold forwards for 20 minutes straight and then just get lost in the middle of the abyss. You can press R to reset. And also, if you get a camera glitch at the start of your game and it doesn't set your camera properly, you can press this to make your way to the board. So, with the on-screen UI, you'll see in the top left, there's a little icon next to a number inside of like a little window. So, what this represents is your points. When you join the beta, you'll be playing as the green country, unless you're one specific person. And the green country right now has 300 points. If you've watched the devlogs, you'll know that the point symbol used to be different, but I like it better this way. Points are what you use to build buildings, basically. And in the full release, you're going to be able to send points to other players to hopefully make deals with them, such as trading equipment. And the final UI element is obviously donations, as you could see. So pick something here and you can donate to the game. Quite simple. If you donate, maybe one day your kindness will be repaid. Who knows? Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into construction. So if you zoom in towards a green square and then hover over it with your mouse or with just tapping on your phone, and if you're on a controller, you can press PlayStation, it's the square, and on Xbox it's like I think it's X. That will open up the gamepad virtual cursor and it will let you like slide your cursor around the map. So once you're hovering over a square, as you can see, each square has its own of these icons, but you should see two icons show up, a gun and a hammer. If you click on the hammer, this will open the construction menu and select the square. So it will show you here your country's name and your name. And if you click on someone else's square, it will show you their country's name and their username. So on this empty square here, you can see I can build a railway for 1 point. So let's try doing that now. As you can see, our points went down, but a railway has begun construction. You can see it's not completed yet as it doesn't have the grey bars next to it, the metal. But this is just a way of showing that it's not done yet. And as you can see here, it's under construction. And here is a menu. So you could build a city, which creates an under construction city. You can create factories for all different types of equipment. So boats, guns, machine guns, all of these things, in addition to nuclear reactors. Now, to test out the points check, as you can see here, I've got 284 points. This costs 300. As you can see, it errors and says not enough points because we don't have enough to buy that. Bases you can build are air bases, land bases and ports, and these are where you can repair equipment, and also ports are vital for boats to travel between land and sea, as boats can only travel either by ocean or by railway. They can't just go along land. So if I try and build an airbase here, for example, you'll see an under construction airbase is being built. The button that doesn't do anything yet is walls. It opens up the walls menu, but there's nothing in here because I haven't actually created those yet, but they will be ready in the full release. They'll go in between squares, and what they'll do is they'll block anything from passing through them. You'll be able to build gates, which you can choose what can come through. Basically to fortify positions, like your capital city. If you click on a square with a building on it, it will say this square's current building is, and then it will tell you the building. So this is a truck factory, which will produce trucks each round. This is a torpedo factory. This is a completed city, unlike the under construction one we saw earlier. This is a port. This is a machine gun factory. This is a plane factory. This is a boat factory, etc., etc. But this here is a recolored city. We will have a separate model for it at some point, but this is called a supply city. This is where at the start of each round you'll be able to spawn in your new soldiers from the nearby factories. It costs 10 points to upgrade a city to a supply city, and it takes 1 round. So if I start the process here, as you can see, it's a supply city, 1 out of 2. So this is beginning to be transformed into a supply city. And since this square already has a building on it, as you can see, I can't build a city, I can't build any bases, and I can't build any factories. You go onto the construction system and see the progress of it, so 1 out of 2 here, then that's how many rounds are left until it's completed. So in this case, 1 out of 2 means the next round it will be 2 out of 2 and it will be constructed. Okay, that's the hammer icon out of the way, but now let's get into the gun icon. So if you select a square with the gun icon, it will show military in the menu on the side. Now this square has nothing on it, but if we go to a square that does, such as this square up here on this city, you'll see we have soldiers here. Now you can do a lot of things in the military menu. This is basically the focus of the game. This little card shows what type of equipment it is, so in this case a soldier, and it shows which country it belongs to and who owns that country, who's controlling it. It also has a little icon so you can tell at a glance instead of having to read through it, and it has how much health the equipment has. So this equipment here is hurt, this soldier, he's hurt, but this soldier is full healthy soldier. So the main thing that you can do with soldiers and other equipment such as tanks and trucks is movement. So if I click on move here, it will open up a little menu here. So these buttons are up, left, down, right, and there's a claim checkbox here which will decide whether we're going to claim the square that we're moving to. Now if I were to move to any of these squares, I can't claim it because we already own the square. As you can see, it's the same colour as this one, and also it's owned by the same country. This square is an ocean square, and oceans don't change exactly to the colour of your country because then you wouldn't be able to tell whether a square was an ocean or a land square. However, you can see slight colouring in the sea, so if I select the square that you'll see is quite red, it belongs to the red country. If I select this square that's a lighter blue, a little bit green, you'll see this belongs to the green country. And if I select this square here, which is just blue, you'll see this is an unclaimed square. Similarly, there are unclaimed squares on the bottom right of this continent here. So if I were to move a soldier to the left here, it would be going into the sea. And as you can hear, there's an error sound when I try to do this because a soldier can't just move into the middle of the ocean as it's not a boat or a plane. If we try to move the soldier down like this, as you'll see, he's now on the square below. This is where he was before with this soldier, but now he's here. If we try to move him again, you'll hear the error sound effect again, and this is because a piece of equipment can only move once per sub-round. How this works is each game is split up into rounds and sub-rounds. Rounds are just repeated things that go on until the game ends, and sub-rounds are kind of like mini rounds inside of rounds, if that makes sense. A soldier can move 1 space per round, but it can also move 1 space per sub-round. This means if we're on sub-round 1, the soldier will be able to move, but if we're on sub-round 2, we won't be able to move because we're only able to move the soldier once per round, despite a soldier being able to move once per sub-round, if that makes sense. This separates soldiers from pieces of equipment such as tanks and trucks who can move amounts of squares much higher per round than soldiers can, such as 2 and 3 squares. This means you can travel a much greater distance, and this is helpful for claiming territory and fast transport. If I were to claim as much territory as I could, the way I would go about it would be with trucks, because they can move the furthest besides planes. The reason I wouldn't use planes is because planes can't claim squares. The only way to claim squares with planes is to drop paratroopers from them. However, this means that you'll need to always have a paratrooper on your plane for each square you travel. This might be applicable for one round because I could move a plane from this square to this one, drop a paratrooper. Then the next sub-round I could move my plane from this square to this square and drop a paratrooper, and then to this one. However, after this, for the next round, I have no paratroopers left to claim any more squares because they're all here. So rather than do that, I would use a truck because I can travel in a straight line and claim territory. So as we could see, this soldier has moved already the sub-round, so he can't move again. This also applies for this little C button, which is a claim button. This is useful for paratroopers, as once you've dropped out of a plane on the same square, you don't have to move before claiming something. Now there's special cases for soldiers' movement. This will be different depending on the game rules, but some games will have the pole's loop value enabled. And what this means is if you try to move upwards where there's no more squares left, you will actually still proceed to move. And this is because in the real world, the Earth, if you travel straight north from somewhere like the US, you'll come down on the other side of the Earth, half of the world away. This would be somewhere like maybe Eastern Europe. You can see this clearly in the example I'm putting up on the screen. Since you go up and come down half of the world away, how it works in this game, if Pole's Loop is enabled, is if I move this soldier on this square up, he'll come down half of the world away, as you'll see now. So he actually moved all the way over here. So there's 21 squares across on this board, which means it's an odd number. So if we halve that, we get 10.5. It always rounds down in this case for predictability. So the soldier would move 10 squares to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As you can see here, the soldier's moved 10 squares to the left. There's also a case for sides loop. Now, in the world, obviously, we know that places like Japan are really close to places like the US, and they're not actually half of the world away. So places on the map, such as here, where it looks like it just cuts off into nothing, really the map is just repeating itself over and over and over again in this direction, because it's looping like a globe. I don't think there's any equipment on the sides that I can demonstrate this with, but how this would work is if you left the map to the left 5 squares up, you would come out 5 squares up all the way on the right. So if I moved a soldier from that square to the left, he would come here. If sides loop is disabled, you just won't be able to move. I do have some soldiers here I can demonstrate this with actually. If I move this soldier to the right, he'll follow the railway track there, and now he's over here. So as we've discussed briefly, there are railway tracks in this game, and depending on the rules of the game, a railway will give you a specific number of squares of movement bonus per round per equipment. For example, if the sub-round of this game was 2, meaning that a soldier would normally not be able to move, if a soldier was on a valid railway track, meaning there was a connection between the target square of movement and the current square of movement, then it would be able to use that railway network to still move. Now, by default, the bonus amount of railway movement is 2 squares per round, so a soldier could move potentially 3 squares per round if moving by rail. This is why rails are very important for transporting your troops across your country, especially if you're in a war. If you move a truck by rail, then it could potentially move 5 squares per round, or it might be 6, I can't even remember. But that is a significant distance. I can demonstrate claiming over here, and simultaneously I can demonstrate ports. So as you can see, there is a boat on this square that is docked in the port. Now, this port allows me to make this boat move into the ocean, and this square here is unclaimed. So if I check the claim box and move this boat to the left, as you can see, this square is now owned by the Green Country, rather than being unclaimed as it was before. Now, since this boat's already moved, I can't move anywhere again this sub-round. However, I will be able to next sub-round. Sub-rounds and rounds are not actually coded into the game yet, but they will be for the full release. So in the beta, you'll only be able to move each thing one square or do one action, such as attacking. Now, there is one other condition for movement. So some pieces of equipment will need a driver in order to be able to move. This is everything except for soldiers, because they can move by foot. So vehicles like planes, as you can see here, need a driver in order to be able to move. Now, this view contents button here on each piece of equipment shows you equipment that is inside this equipment. So for example, we have a soldier who is driving the plane that's within the plane. If I click on the stop driving button here and then check back, the soldier is no longer driving. And if I try to move to, let's say, this square here, you can hear the error sound effect. This is because a plane needs a driver in order to be able to move, otherwise it's just a big block of metal. If I click the drive button on this soldier, as you can see, it's now driving. And I am now able to move this plane to this square. So as you saw there with sub-equipment, there are things that can be inside of other things, such as multiple soldiers inside of a truck. However, as you'll see here, there are also tanks that can go inside of things. What happens here is the tanks that you see inside of this truck are not actually inside of the truck. As you can see, they are being towed. This allows for tanks to have a driver within them, but still be inside of a truck as sub-equipment. So this tank will move along with the truck, as I can demonstrate now. As you can see, these two tanks followed the truck along, and they're no longer on this square. This icon here on the equipment that's being towed, if you click it, it will highlight the equipment that is towing the equipment that you clicked the icon on. So as you can see here, this truck is now selected, and this is the truck that has been towing these two tanks. If we look into the sub-equipment of the truck and see the towed tanks, and we press on find, it will highlight the tank that we've selected here, and this will show you what is being towed. If I highlight on one of these pieces of equipment that's being towed, the once interact button on this truck, as you see, has become a dismount button. What this can do, if I click on it, is stop the tank from being towed and make it its own independent piece of equipment. If I look inside of the truck, you'll see that only now one tank is being towed, which is this one. This one, however, has lost the icon because it's no longer being towed, and it would be able to move independently. However, it's already moved the sub-round as it's moved with the truck. If I press the interact button on the tank to select it, then the move button on the truck has changed to a mount button. If I click on this, I can make the tank towed by the truck again. Likewise, if I select one of the pieces of sub-equipment within this tank, such as this driver, then the interact button on the tank has become dismount. If I click on this, the driver will exit the tank, and now the tank is empty. This tank can, however, move without a driver as it is being towed by the truck. However, the truck has already moved the sub-round, so I cannot demonstrate this here. This soldier is also free to move on its own now. You may have noticed, but when you select something, it will come up at the top of the screen to show you what's being selected. It has a complete replica of what you'll see inside of the equipment menu, and the buttons are replaced with a find button, which will select the square that the equipment is on, as you can see here. This is how you can find what is being selected. It will also open up this military menu, and it will select what is being selected so that you can tell. If you highlight a piece of sub-equipment, such as the driver of this tank, and if I move away, if I click on find, it will once again select the square so that I can tell where the piece of sub-equipment is that is being selected. Like the mount button that we saw on the tank, if I select a piece of equipment, then the move button on the truck here will also turn into the mount button. If I click on this, this soldier can mount onto the truck, and now this truck has 2 soldiers inside. The point of being able to move things around is that you can attack with them. So if I select onto this square here, you'll see that I have lots of military equipment, such as a tank and a plane. If I select the tank here, that's being towed by this truck, and then select this red square here, you'll see there's a lot of enemy equipment here too. If I use my tank to attack the enemy tank here, as you can see, I damaged the tank, and there was visual feedback to help demonstrate that. This means that the tank is now on 1 out of 2 HP, unlike before when it had 2. There was also a damaged soldier here. However, I cannot attack again with this tank this sub-round because it can only attack or move once per sub-round. If I select this soldier here and then go onto this square and attack this enemy soldier, as you can see, that time I killed the soldier. Now all that's left on this square is the tank. A truck cannot attack because it has no weapons, it's just a means of transport. That's why I cannot attack this tank using this truck. Plane can attack, however, I need to demonstrate something else. If I move this plane over this square here, and then look into its contents, as you'll see, the plane has moved onto the square, even though there is an enemy equipment on this square. This is something that you can do, however, you cannot claim a square that has enemy equipment on it. If I uncheck the claim checkbox here, it would let me move on to it. So, if I view the contents of this plane, you'll see I have missiles inside, and missiles are quite unique as they cannot attack on their own, however they can be dropped if they are inside of a plane. So this drop button here, which used to be the drive button, if I click it, will make the missile fall onto the square below and explode. Let's see what happens. So it destroyed the tank that was on the square, and as you can see, the square is now empty. However, it missed the tank factory that's on this square, meaning that the industry received no damage. However, now that there's no enemy equipment left on the square, I can move my truck over and claim the square, which it wouldn't let me before. However, if I drop this missile on this square again, it's saying how it missed the truck and tank. This is referring to my truck and tank, as friendly fire is not disabled for missiles, as that would not make sense. Missiles are able to blow up your own equipment, so you have to be careful where you drop them. It also destroyed the tank factory this time, and now I can build whatever I want on this square. For example, I could build an airbase to repair any damaged planes from combat, such as this one when the airbase is constructed. Repairing works by healing something back up to its full HP. For example, this boat here is on 1 out of 2 HP, but if I select this boat and then go onto the construction menu, as you'll see in the bottom right, there's a repair boat button. You have a select number of repairs that you can make per round and sub-round on bases and cities. Cities can heal soldiers, and ports, land bases and air bases can repair boats, tanks, trucks, machine guns, planes, and things like that. So if I repair this boat that's on 1 HP, as you'll see it's now on 2 HP, but I have 0 repairs left this sub-round, and the repair button does not work. This boat is now fully healed, so it's less likely to die in a battle. If I look on my supply city here, and select this soldier, which is on 1 HP, I can heal it, and now it's back up to 2 HP. However, it is important that you choose the right places to repair your equipment, as planes cannot be repaired at land bases, only air bases. Boats can only be repaired at ports, not air bases. And tanks can only be repaired at land bases, not ports or air bases. And soldiers can be healed exclusively at cities and supply cities. If we look at this square here, there's a plane, and if I view the contents, it has a driver soldier and a nuclear bomb inside. If I move this plane over the enemy's supply city, which has 2 soldiers defending it, and railways around it, and lots of industry, and then I choose to drop the bomb, it will cause mass destruction. You might want to turn the volume down if you're wearing headphones. As you may have seen, that list of destruction was almost impossible to read. Anything within a nuclear bomb's radius is guaranteed to be destroyed. everything except the plane that was carrying it. As you'll see here, there's now no railway or building in a 1 square range of where it was dropped. The soldiers that were defending the capital city are now also dead. This can be a very effective way of destroying your enemy's industry late game. And now, since it's killed everything here, I can walk in with the soldier and claim the square. This tank here, I'm also going to use to attack this plane, which is now destroyed, and I'll kill the driver soldier with this soldier. One last thing to show is naval battles. If I look on this square here, you'll see I have a plane which is on this boat. This boat inside has 1, 2, 3 torpedoes and the plane that's being towed and a driver. If I look on this square, you'll see that the enemy has a boat which has a driver soldier, a torpedo, an extra soldier, and a towed machine gun on top. This machine gun has a driver, and so does the plane that I have here. This plane also has a spare soldier. Torpedoes are also unique, like missiles and nuclear bombs. However, they cannot be dropped. Instead, if I interact with this torpedo and try to attack anything that's not a boat, it won't work, because torpedoes can only attack boats. They can only attack if they are being fired from a boat, and they are launched through the water and explode the other boat. Let's see what happens. So my torpedo missed, and torpedoes are 1 use, so that one is gone. Luckily, I have 2 more. This one also missed. Let's try the 3rd one. This one also missed. I got really unlucky. Maybe I'll have better luck if I attack the boat using my soldiers and plane. That also missed. Wow. Let's see what happens with this soldier that's inside the plane. This also missed. Okay, surely this has got a hit. This missed too? Okay, surely the plane's got to do something. That missed as well? That's ridiculous. I'll put the chances of that happening on the screen, but that's so unlucky. I had like 7 misses in a row. Jeez. What are the chances of that? Well, what was meant to happen was the enemy boat was going to get blown up, and these pieces of sub-equipment inside were going to go floating in the sea. And what happens is they stay there for this current round, but then the next round they'll have sunk. But this gives you a window of opportunity to send another boat to pick them up and save them. And that's everything you need to know about how to play the game. So thanks for watching, and stick around until the full release.